Chen allowed herself a moment of satisfaction before returning to the tactical situation. All ships, weapons free. Priority targets are the vessels over population centers. Let's show these machines what happens when they mess with our neighbors. The battle that followed was unlike anything in recorded history. The harvesters, programmed to counter energy weapons and absorb technological advances, found themselves completely unprepared for humanity's deliberately primitive approach to warfare. Railguns, missile salvos, and even old-fashioned explosive charges tore through their formations with devastating efficiency. On the planet's surface, the surviving Zephyrians watched in amazement as the tide of battle turned within hours. The mechanical invaders that had seemed unstoppable were being systematically destroyed by weapons their ancestors might have recognized. "How are they doing this?" Dr. Mira asked, studying the battle from the underground command center where the remaining Zephyrian leadership had taken shelter. "They're using kinetic weapons," Vex explained, wonder evident in her voice. Physical projectiles launched at incredible speeds. The harvesters evolved to counter energy-based civilizations, but these humans never abandoned the most basic form of warfare. Elder Thane, despite his advanced age, was practically vibrating with excitement. "Don't you see? This is why the beacon was designed to call them specifically. Our ancestors somehow knew that one day we would face a threat that only kinetic weapons could defeat." Above them, Admiral Chen was coordinating the systematic destruction of the harvester fleet. "Dr. Martinez, are you detecting any attempt by the hostiles to adapt or retreat?" "Negative, Admiral," the science officer reported. "Their artificial intelligence seems completely locked into energy absorption protocols. They're not even attempting evasive maneuvers." The final phase of the battle came when the human fleet surrounded the largest harvester vessel, a command ship the size of a small city that had been coordinating the planetary consumption. Chen ordered a full missile barrage from all vessels simultaneously. The massive explosion that followed was visible from the planet's surface, a brilliant new star that marked the end of the harvester threat. As the light faded, the surviving machines simply shut down, their networked intelligence severed with the destruction of their central command. "All hostile vessels destroyed or disabled," Commander Williams reported. "The planet is secure." Chen felt a weight lift from her shoulders that she hadn't realized she was carrying. "Open a channel to Counselor Vex." The alien leader appeared on screen again, but this time her exhaustion was mixed with overwhelming gratitude. "Admiral Chen, your people have saved our civilization. How can we ever repay such a debt?" "No debt necessary," Chen replied. "That's what neighbors do for each other." "But I have to ask, how did your ancestors know to build a beacon specifically designed to call humanity?" Vex smiled, an expression that translated perfectly across species lines. "Dr. Mira, please show the Admiral what we discovered in the archive." The screen changed to show the underground chamber where they had found the beacon. But now, with the threat ended, they had time to explore the rest of the facility. The walls were covered with images and symbols that told an incredible story. "These aren't just any star guardians," Dr. Mira explained. "According to the records we've uncovered, human explorers visited our world over 10,000 years ago. They were part of an early colonization effort that apparently ended in disaster, but not before they left this beacon as a safeguard." Chen stared at the images, seeing clearly recognizable human figures working alongside ancient Zephyrians. "My God, we've been connected all along." "The records suggest your ancestors called themselves the Terran Exploration Corps," Vex added. "They helped our people survive a previous crisis, then left with promises to return if we ever needed help again." Dr. Martinez looked up from her analysis. "Admiral, this changes everything we thought we knew about early human space exploration. These dates predate our official first contact protocols by centuries." Chen nodded slowly, understanding the implications. "It seems humanity has been playing the role of galactic guardian longer than we ever realized." Over the following days, as the human fleet helped the Zephyrians begin rebuilding their civilization, a new understanding emerged. The beacon network wasn't unique to Kepler 442b. Similar devices had been left on dozens of worlds throughout the galaxy, all built by ancient human explorers who had somehow foreseen the need for a galactic protection system. We're receiving activation signals from 17 other beacons, Lieutenant Zhang reported during a briefing 3 days after the battle. Worlds throughout the galaxy are calling for help. Chen looked out at the stars, feeling the weight of responsibility settling on her shoulders once again. Humanity had been thrust into a role they never asked for but had apparently been preparing for across millennia. "Send a message to Earth Command," she ordered. "Tell them we're going to need a much larger fleet. It seems we have a galaxy to protect." High Counselor Vex joined her at the observation deck, both leaders looking out at the reconstruction efforts below. "Your people could have ignored our signal," she said. "You could have decided it was too dangerous or too costly." "That's not who we are," Chen replied simply. "Humanity learned long ago that the strongest civilizations are the ones that help others become strong too." As the first new Zephyrian structures began to rise from the ruins, incorporating both traditional energy-based design and new kinetic weapon defenses provided by their human allies, a new chapter in galactic history began. The Terran Protection Fleet was officially established, with bases throughout the galaxy staffed by humans who had volunteered to serve as guardians for civilizations they had never met. The beacon network, dormant for 10,000 years, came alive with new purpose. Humanity had found its role among the stars not as conquerors or colonizers, but as the species that answered when others called for help. And in the depths of space, other mechanical civilizations detected the destruction of the Harvester fleet and began making their own plans. The galaxy had guardians now, but it also had new threats that would test the growing alliance between humanity and its alien partners. The age of the Star Guardians had truly begun. Keth 9 nodded, still amazed at finding herself serving alongside beings her people had thought extinct. "Admiral, may I ask how humanity developed such advanced military capabilities?" Chen's expression grew somber. "Necessity, Doctor. In our expansion beyond Earth, we encountered species that viewed us as either resources to be exploited or threats to be eliminated. We learned that in this galaxy, peace must be protected by strength. The battle began at the edge of the Zephyrian system as the Void Swarm's scout elements encountered the human fleet. The mechanical entities, accustomed to overwhelming their opponents through sheer numbers and adaptive technology, found themselves facing an enemy unlike any they had previously encountered. Human tactical doctrine emphasized flexibility, overwhelming firepower, and the ability to adapt faster than the enemy. As the swarm's units began their standard conversion attacks, they were met by coordinated volleys from the human Nova cannons, their beams timed precisely to strike during the 17-second vulnerability windows. "Direct hits on enemy formations 7 through 12, reported Commander Jackson from the Vanguard's tactical station. Swarm units destroyed before they could complete adaptive routines. But the Void Swarm was learning. Surviving units began altering their conversion cycles, reducing the vulnerability window to mere seconds. Their hulls adapted to disperse energy weapons more effectively. "Adaptation detected," Dr. Keth 9 announced from her position at the analysis station. "They're reducing exposure time by 43% and increasing hull density." "Acknowledged," Admiral Chen replied calmly. "All units switch to kinetic bombardment, pattern Echo 9. The human fleet's response was immediate and devastating. Instead of energy weapons, they launched clouds of relativistic projectiles, accelerated to near light, speed by magnetic catapults. The swarm's adaptive hulls, optimized against energy weapons, provided little protection against physical impacts at such velocities. The battle raged for 8 hours, with the Void Swarm throwing increasingly desperate variations of its standard tactics against the human fleet. Each adaptation was met by a counter-adaptation, each new strategy countered by human tactical flexibility. Dr. Keth 9 watched in amazement as Captain Torres coordinated his ships with a precision that bordered on precognitive. Human commanders seemed to anticipate swarm movements before they occurred, positioning their vessels for maximum advantage. "How do they do it?" Vel 3 whispered, as another perfectly timed human maneuver destroyed a swarm formation. "Experience," Dr. Park replied, overhearing the question. "Humanity has fought AI rebellions, hive minds, and collective intelligences before. Captain Torres served in the Outer Rim Wars against the Synthetic Collective. This is familiar territory for us. The turning point came when Admiral Chen ordered the deployment of humanity's most closely guarded weapon, quantum disruption mines. These devices, deployed throughout the swarm's formation, created cascading failures in the quantum entanglement networks the mechanical entities used for coordination. Suddenly, the perfect coordination that had made the void swarm so dangerous collapsed. Individual units found themselves isolated, unable to share adaptations or coordinate attacks. The human fleet exploited this chaos ruthlessly, destroying scattered swarm elements before they could re-establish communication. Within 2 hours, the threat that had consumed 17 star systems was reduced to scattered debris and fading energy signatures. As the battle concluded, Dr. Keth 9 found herself standing on the Vanguard's bridge, watching the final cleanup operations. The human vessel's crew worked with quiet efficiency, their casual competence in the aftermath of such destruction both inspiring and intimidating. Admiral Chen approached, her uniform bearing scorch marks from a brief hull breach during the battle. Your people's analytical support was instrumental in our victory. The swarm's adaptation patterns were more complex than our models predicted. Keth 9 bowed in the traditional Zephyrian gesture of respect. Admiral, we owe you a debt that can never be repaid. Our entire civilization would have been consumed without your intervention. Chen smiled, the expression transforming her weathered features. Doctor, in our experience, the best way to repay such debts is to stand ready to help others when they call for aid. Over the following days, as the human fleet prepared for departure, extensive discussions took place between the two species. Trade agreements were established, scientific exchanges planned, and most importantly, communication protocols implemented. The galaxy has changed much since the old Federation, Admiral Chen explained to the assembled Zephyrian Council. There are new threats emerging, new species expanding their territories. Your people's research capabilities combined with humanity's military strength could benefit both our civilizations. Elder Thex Prime spoke for the entire council when he replied, Admiral, the Zephyrian people formally request to join the United Earth Alliance. We offer our knowledge, our resources, and our loyalty to the species that answered our desperate call. As the human fleet departed Zephyrian space, they left behind more than just a rescued civilization. They had forged the first new alliance humanity had made in decades, opening possibilities for expansion and cooperation that would reshape their corner of the galaxy. Dr. Keth 9 stood in her laboratory, now equipped with several pieces of human technology, working on joint research projects that would have been impossible before first contact. The beacon protocol had indeed brought them salvation, but more than that, it had brought them a future they had never dared imagine. The galaxy would soon learn that humanity's return to galactic affairs marked the beginning of a new era. The species that had once been dismissed as primitive had become the protectors their ancient protocols had always claimed them to be. And in the depths of space, other civilizations facing their own extinction events began to receive a new message, transmitted on frequencies both ancient and modern. This is the United Earth Alliance. If you are in distress, if you face extinction, if you need help that no one else can provide, send your call to these coordinates. We are listening, we are coming, and we will answer. The protector species had returned to the galaxy, and they were ready to fulfill their ancient promise. The desperate signal. The crimson warning lights bathed the Zephyrian research station in an ominous glow as Dr. Keth 9 worked frantically at the ancient archives terminal. Her 6 delicate fingers danced across the crystalline interface, scrolling through data files that hadn't been accessed in over 1,000 cycles. Outside the station's transparent aluminum windows, the dying light of 3 consumed stars painted the void in haunting shades of amber and gold. Another system has gone dark, announced her research partner, Vel 3, his usually calm voice trembling, with barely contained fear. The void swarm consumed the entire Altair nexus in less than 2 planetary rotations. The machine intelligence is accelerating its consumption rate. Keth 9 didn't look up from her work. She couldn't afford to. The weight of their entire civilization's survival rested on finding something, anything in these forgotten archives that might help them against the relentless mechanical plague sweeping across the galaxy. The Zephyrians were a peaceful species. Their technology focused on exploration, terraforming, and scientific advancement rather than warfare. They had thrived for millennia in their corner of the galaxy, sharing knowledge with other peaceful species and avoiding the conflicts that plagued more aggressive civilizations. Now, that peaceful nature threatened to be their extinction. "How long before they reach our core systems?" Keth 9 asked, though she dreaded the answer. "At their current rate of expansion, perhaps 20 rotations. Maybe less." Vel 3's voice cracked slightly. "The Defense Council is preparing evacuation protocols, but where can we run to? The swarm adapts to every defense we've tried. Our particle shields are useless against their conversion beams, and our quantum disruptors merely slow them down." The void swarm had appeared seemingly from nowhere 3 cycles ago, emerging from the dark space between galactic arms. Initial contact had been catastrophic. The machine intelligence didn't communicate, didn't negotiate, didn't even acknowledge attempts at contact. It simply consumed everything in its path, converting matter into more of itself, leaving behind empty systems stripped of every atom of useful material. Keth 9 paused as something caught her attention in the ancient files. "Vel 3, look at this." She gestured to a section of text that seemed to glow with renewed relevance. "It's from the old galactic archives before the Great Isolation, something called the Emergency Beacon Protocol." Vel 3 moved closer, his large, luminous eyes scanning the text. "I've never heard of this protocol. It speaks of contacting something called the protector species in times of galactic crisis. According to this," Keth 9 continued reading, "there exists a species designated as the galaxy's last resort, called upon only when extinction-level threats emerge. The coordinates are listed here as Sol 3. That designation doesn't match any current star charts." Vel 3's breathing quickened. Sol 3 was the ancient designation for a system in the outer rim. The archives listed as containing a primitive species that destroyed itself in nuclear warfare over 1,000 cycles ago. Surely they must be extinct by now. Keth 9 felt a spark of desperate hope. But what if they're not? What if they survived and evolved? The ancient texts speak of this species with almost mythical reverence. Listen to this passage. "In times of darkness, when all hope seems lost, the warriors of Sol 3 shall rise to defend the innocent. Their determination knows no bounds, their courage no limits." Poetic language from a more superstitious age, Vel 3 said dismissively, though his tone held a note of uncertainty. Even if they survived, what could one primitive species do against the Void Swarm when the combined might of the Galactic Federation failed? Before Keth 9 could respond, alarms began blaring throughout the station. Emergency messages flooded their communication channels as reports came in from the outer monitoring posts. The Void Swarm had accelerated its approach, consuming the Rigel defense platform in a matter of hours rather than the predicted days. "We're out of time," Keth 9 said, her decision crystallizing in that moment of crisis. "I'm activating the Emergency Beacon Protocol." Keth 9, "Wait," Vel 3 protested, but she was already accessing the station's deep space communication array. The beacon protocol required enormous amounts of energy, nearly draining their entire power grid for a single transmission. As the ancient system came online, Keth 9 inputted the coordinates for Sol 3, praying to whatever forces governed the universe, that anyone would be listening. The message she crafted was simple but desperate. "To any who receive this transmission, we are the Zephyrian people, and we face extinction. The Void Swarm consumes all in its path. We invoke the ancient Emergency Beacon Protocol and call upon the protector species for aid. Our civilization will not survive another cycle without intervention." The transmission launched into space, carrying with it the desperate hopes of billions of Zephyrian lives. Meanwhile, millions of light-years away, in the Sol system, Admiral Sarah Chen stood in the command center of Luna Base, humanity's primary military installation orbiting Earth's moon. At 52, she had dedicated her life to protecting humanity's expanding presence in the galaxy. Her silver hair was pulled back in a regulation bun, and her weathered hands bore the scars of countless battles fought against hostile alien species, rogue AI, and the harsh realities of deep space exploration. "Admiral," called out communications. "Officer Rodriguez, we're receiving an emergency transmission on the old Federation frequencies. It's unlike anything we've seen before." Chen turned from the tactical display she had been studying. "Put it through." The message that played through the command center's speakers sent chills down everyone's spine. The alien voice, translated by their advanced linguistic algorithms, spoke of extinction, of a mechanical plague consuming entire star systems. But what struck Chen most was the reference to the protector species and the emergency beacon protocol. "Ma'am," whispered Lieutenant Commander Park, the station's intelligence officer, "according to our historical databases, the emergency beacon protocol was established during the old Federation era, over 1,000 years ago. Humanity was designated as the galaxy's military reserve, called upon only in times of ultimate crisis." Chen's eyes narrowed. "And they're calling upon us now." She turned to her senior staff. "Analysis?" Commander Jackson, her tactical officer, stepped forward. "The coordinates they've provided place their civilization in the Kepler 442 system, approximately 1,200 light-years from Earth. If their description of this void swarm is accurate, we're looking at a threat that could eventually reach human space." "And they think we're extinct," added Dr. Martinez, the xenobiology specialist. "Their message suggests they believe they're contacting a species that may no longer exist. They have no idea what humanity has become." Chen smiled grimly. Indeed, they didn't know. In the centuries since the old Federation's collapse, humanity had not only survived but thrived. The United Earth Space Command now controlled over 200 star systems, protected by the most advanced military fleet in known space. Humanity's talent for warfare, combined with their incredible adaptability and refusal to surrender, had made them the dominant military power in their region of the galaxy. "Options?" Chen asked. "We could send a diplomatic envoy," suggested Commander Park. "A small fleet to assess the situation." Chen shook her head. "No. If this void swarm is as dangerous as they claim, a small force won't be sufficient. And if we're going to reveal ourselves to the galaxy after centuries of isolation, we need to make it count." She turned to address the entire command staff. "Prepare the Third Fleet for immediate deployment. Full battle configuration. Captain Torres will command from the vanguard." The room fell silent. The Third Fleet represented humanity's most powerful military force, 127 ships, including 12 dreadnoughts, 36 battlecruisers, 45 destroyers, and 34 support vessels. It was a force capable of conquering entire star systems or, as Chen hoped, saving them. "Ma'am," Commander Jackson said carefully, "deploying the Third Fleet will leave our core systems with reduced protection." "Calculated risk, Commander. If this void swarm is as dangerous as these Zephyrians claim, stopping it now is preferable to fighting it when it reaches our doorstep." Chen's voice carried the authority of someone who had made difficult decisions for decades. Besides, it's time the galaxy remembered what humanity is capable of. As orders went out across human space, massive ships began emerging from hidden bases, their crews preparing for the longest deployment in recent memory. Captain Marcus Torres, commander of the UES Vanguard, stood on his bridge reviewing the mission parameters. At 38, he was young for a fleet commander, but his record in the Outer Rim Wars had proven his tactical brilliance.